What is going on out there, peeps? Let's get into gold talk. I'm telling you, there is so much activity going on. A lot of people talking, a lot of speculation. I'm going to play a couple of videos for you to highlight a couple points I want to make. I need you to check them out. This is going to, once again, make you feel very confident about the fact that you invested into precious metals. For those of you who haven't yet, I highly recommend you do. It's just my opinion. And for those of you who have, I highly recommend you continue to add to your pile. If you're going to buy precious metals, please give our friends over at Money Metals Exchange a consideration. The link is in the description. If you buy more than $100 worth of precious metals, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and get a free half ounce of silver. If you already got your free half ounce, then you won't get another free half ounce after that. Some large orders, you will get free silver from Money Metals, okay? For those of you who are not here in the United States, look in the descriptions underneath my videos. I have put on there links for you to buy gold and silver in different countries, all right? Just to help out, just in case you're interested. Quick reminder, we have Pimpy's Investment Chat. It's the same name as the YouTube channel. Over here, we talk about investment opportunities, obviously gold and silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. No politics. Keep the politics for this group over here, which is the hidden things in front of your eyes. We talk about over here, politics, current events, QAnon, NESARA, GESARA, 9/11, false flag events, the whole 9 yards. Just be respectful of one another. If you don't have Facebook, but you got Twitter, come join me over here on Twitter. The link is in the description. I'd love to have you over here. All right, so look, again, these guys bring up a point, and it's very interesting who they talk about is involved with precious metals that we don't hear about. So I'm going to let this play out just a little bit, but I want you to hear what they have to say about why people are, it wasn't just Warren Buffett. A lot of the billionaires have moved into precious metals.
Tom, what about your perspective from the change of the passive management?
Well, first of all, you know, Willie Sutton was once asked, why do you rob banks? And the answer was, that's where the money is. And I learned very, very early on in my experience that if the only focus is on the mining funds, then what ends up happening is that you cannibalize from other players. And it's extremely unpleasant. And truthfully, institutional investors don't really like to see companies slagging each other off. And my philosophy from the very, very beginning was to focus on generalists. When I got into the business, Soros was my partner. Bill Gates, through Cascade, came into Ross.
George Soros, and once again, we hear that name that we all hate so much. Bill Gates. They moved into the mining sector of precious metals.
We were both playing silver. The advent of being able to have a Bill Gates or a George Soros as advocates within a mining vehicle was extremely unusual and very beneficial to both of us. And then you superimpose upon that the ultimate naysayer in gold, Warren Buffett, who bought 130 million ounces of gold the week I took my company public. Excuse me, silver. Thank you. And
so in the 1990s, Warren Buffett and his hedge fund moved into silver, and they bought millions of ounces of silver. I think at the time it was like $4 an ounce for silver. And he spent, I think it was, good Lord, I think it was just about 200 million. I might be wrong. I did a video on it. I think it was about 200 million. And by the time he turned around and resold it, they had made over $1 billion in profit. And it didn't take very long. I think it was like 10 years later. So again, investing into precious metals is a wise move. Now we see currently today that Warren Buffett is moving into gold is what it is.
And that became the great detoxifier of silver, which theretofore had been tainted with, you know, discussion about the hunt bubble, etc. I believe, as Ross just mentioned, that what we're seeing is a similar phenomenon in gold. The ultimate naysayer has now taken a stake in a premier gold mining company. Whatever the rationale was, it's emblematic of the shift that's taking place.
This is why I say watch what they do, not what they say. Earlier, they go on and list all these different billionaires who have personally moved into precious metals. They're doing both physical gold and silver as well as mining companies. And a lot of the mining companies that they're talking about are the ones on my stock watch videos, believe it or not. So, which is good. And I know you guys are getting on me because I missed 2 stock watch videos. But I've been wrapped up in a lot of stuff going on here at my house, so I apologize. I could just tell you that I took a little bit of a thumping, obviously, because of the downswing and upswing in the markets. It's just artificial, so I will start again on Monday so you guys can see. But they're moving into these positions. Billionaires, hedge funds, pension funds, all taking positions into precious metals. Like I said, watch what they do, not what they say.
And this is why I think the indexes are going to benefit the mining companies. What we're seeing now, and this is the beauty of gold, is that so many people are choosing gold for different reasons. I call it a buffet because you'll have Dalio, as Ross just referenced, arguing it from one area. Dalio said, look, gold is just another currency.
Dalio was a guy that said nobody should have more than 5% of gold, or you should have a minimum of 5% of gold in your portfolio. And then he turned around and increased his holdings both in precious metals and mining stocks to 20% of his overall portfolio. You see what I'm talking about?
Get over it. We have Aussie, we have Swiss, we have yen, we have euro, we have dollars. You should have some gold. And if you don't have any gold, quote, then it means you don't understand history or the business of gold.
No, history is right. So I told you guys I watch a lot of videos on gold and silver. The people that I pay the most attention to are the ones who talk, the historians of gold and silver. That's because they analyze the trends. They're really good at market guessing. I say market guessing, but you know what I mean. Like they can spot trends. They could tell you based on the movement of gold and silver what was going on during that time in our politics, what was going on during that time in our history. And that's important because what you do is you pay attention to the markets. You pay attention to what's happening to us geopolitically, and then you listen to what they're saying. They're saying, hey, this happened once before. This is what happened. Hey, back in the 1400s, this is what happened. So the historians are the people I pay the most attention to, because from them I can make the best educated move on what I want to do with gold and silver.
And he's right. I personally am particularly bullish on gold because being a professional in the space for almost 30 years, I know how dire the industry is.
A lot of guys are asking me, what is bull, what is bear? A bull market is when a particular stock or precious metal or anything like that, when they say it's a bull run, that means it's increasing in value. That means there's this trend where it keeps increasing. That's a bull run, okay? A bull market. In other words, that's where people are making money, is a bull run. Bear market is when people are losing money. So that's, I guess, the best way to put it. A bull market is a trend in which goes on, in which people make money. A bear market is a trend that goes on, in which people lose money. That's what they're talking about.
And that production is declining. Grade has collapsed by 50% over the last decade. No new major discoveries are taking place. Ross has been acquiring great producing assets. Our flagship Nova Gold is the next Carlin. I mean, it's half hours and half barracks. But we know that if you discovered something like a Donlin today, to get it to where it needs to be in production is going to be on average between 20 and 25 years. And that's assuming the discoveries are made at all.
So I don't want to keep going because they get into some really detailed stuff, but it's just a lot of blah, blah, blah talk if you're not interested in, but you just want to get to the juicy parts. So I like the fact that this guy's talking about we're seeing all kinds of people moving into the gold and silver, precious metal sector, especially gold. These are these billionaires, the hedge funds, the pension funds, more and more. Even ones that I haven't talked about yet are moving into precious metals. They must know something. Now, keep in mind, these very rich and powerful people get a lot of insider information. Even though it's illegal, they get it. So when you see them all leaving the banking sector, like we did, selling all their bank stocks and stuff, like we did, and then start moving into gold and silver, like we did, that tells you that they're expecting something to happen to the banks. Something is going to change. Well, what ended up happening is a report came out on a lot of these big banks that were committing all kinds of illegal activities, and it caused all of the banking stocks to drop. See, you should have known when you see them selling their shares of banks, they already know ahead of time, which is illegal, but they know. So that's why I'm saying to you, keep in mind, we want to watch what these people do, not what they say, because they obviously know something we don't know. So you can actually make a lot of money off of studying their habits, what they're doing. All right. So anyways, let's get over to this next one. Now I'm going to play this whole video because this guy is good, and I'm going to stop it from time to time to comment on what he's saying, but I want you to listen to this because they're talking about the dramatic early return to the gold standard, how it can happen. Alrighty, so pay attention.
On October 12th, the IMF and the World Bank convened for an annual conference to address the impact of the pandemic on the global economic outlook, the pathway towards recovery, and developments in the international financial system. Today we consider how this could lead to a dramatic early return of a dollar gold exchange standard. So let's dive on in. Now, this channel provides global macro insights and champions the importance of sound money in a world gone crazy, so do consider subscribing. The ill discipline of governments and their finances and the rampant credit creation over the course of the last 50 years have resulted in enormous imbalances within our economic systems. Additionally, the vast monetary and fiscal expansion that we have seen since March have led to a further loss of confidence in the current financial system.
But you can't help but feel like it's planned. It's funny how all of a sudden we're seeing article after article after article of banks who are being busted for laundering money, manipulating the markets, other types of frauds that they're committing. The whole purpose of these articles now are to cause distrust in the public. So when they do that, you have to question it. Like, what is their real agenda? Because before they would hide this stuff, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But now they're coming out with it a lot more often. I told you the bankers, our politicians, and the media, all of them are bed buddies. They're all part of the same crime syndicate. So nothing happens without the other person knowing. Okay? So anyway, she's going to talk about a move that comes in October, like I said.
Clearly, economic growth will be impaired for many, many years to come, as tax rises will disproportionately affect the poor and middle classes. Furthermore, interventions to date appear to have largely served the bad economic actors, and the Fed's policies only serve to reinforce inequality. What's more is that a study by Hirschman Capital shows that out of 51 cases of government debt exceeding 130% of GDP since 1800, 50 governments have defaulted on this debt. It's expected that the US debt to GDP ratio will hit 141% by the end of this year. Now, top marks to whoever points out the odd country out here. With interest rates at near zero, the Fed being the world's largest investor in an economy addicted to central bank credit, we are reaching a tipping point where societal unrest begins to boil over and the elites must act.
So this got me thinking about what he said. Civil unrest that rise up against the banks. Then I thought about it. Man, what a convenient to have the pandemic come out. And then all of a sudden, all these Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots happen all along the same time. So, sir, there is civil unrest, but it's distracting us from why we should all be rising up. And that is what we see happening in the banks. See, all this is planned. All of this is planned, including the riots. Yes, they are planned. BLM and Antifa are worldwide. Explain to me how within a half hour of the announcement of the death of George Floyd, that there was worldwide protests with signs of George Floyd within a half hour. You know how long it takes to organize something like that? But they were already organized, all right? So what I'm trying to say is this. We can't always believe what we see. It's being planned. So if we're so distracted on these protests, believing that has to do with, racial inequality, then we take our focus off of the fact that our economy was already crashing before the pandemic. The pandemic's just an excuse. The rioting and looting is just a distraction from who the real criminals are. So I thought it was interesting what he said, and it got me thinking, man, again, if you don't understand how the powers that be, or the deep state, or Illuminati, New World Order, whether or not you believe in them or not, it doesn't matter, how organized and how planned they are, that all these things feed into one another, then you are really missing out on the big picture and why we should be vigilant of all of it.
And so the IMF, World Bank's 7-day conference, will bring together central bankers, ministers of finance and development, private sector executives, representatives from civil society organisations and academics to discuss issues of global concern. It seems highly likely that they will be discussing the IMF's special drawing rights, or SDRs. As Jim Rickards recently commented, here's a transcript of an IMF briefing yesterday. It's long and geeky as might be expected, but halfway through they say, "I think as an institution, as the IMF, we'd still see merit in exploring what can be done in terms of SDRs. World money is coming."
What does that mean? World money is coming. The world already has their own money. Why would he make such a comment? Or is what Jim talking about a one world currency, a new world order? The Great Reset is about bringing us all around into a one world, new world economy that is socialistic. The IMF now is pushing us towards digital currencies so they can control our monies. They want us aboard with a one world currency. So all those years of people talking about a new world order agenda, and everybody thought they were tinfoil hat wearing people, are not now starting to see that no, it wasn't tinfoil hat. We're there. We're there now.
The widespread perspective on SDRs is that they are a currency issued by the IMF and consist of a basket of the world's 5 most important currencies, those being the dollar, the euro, the yen, the yuan and the pound. But the IMF website defines the SDR as neither a currency nor a claim on the IMF. Rather, it's a potential claim on the freely usable currencies of IMF members. The SDR was created in 1969 as an alternative to the US dollar. At the time, one SDR equated to 0.88 grams of gold, but was never gold backed and could be created out of nothing. SDRs are unpopular, yet the need for liquidity will continue to persist as countries such as Lebanon, Turkey and other developing economies face economic catastrophe.
See, again, he's talking about the SDR basket, which is a currency they can just at a whim create at any time. That's not what we want. That's why the gold standard's important. The gold standard restricts the power of our governments, forces them to pass a budget, and they can't print any more money. They can only print what the gold limits them to. This is sound money.
And so the crisis offers the elites the opportunity to introduce a new financial system and a global tax system. Indeed, a recent Project Syndicate report explained that the IMF and World Bank are being asked to throw away the rulebook to save the world's imperiled developing economies. So it seems that a new technological and governance structure is necessary to upgrade a system which is not suitable for the digital era. The IMF and World Bank shareholder rights are based on the size of each shareholder member. G20 nations are the key players, and the US has around a 16.5% vote or veto share. With the Trump administration opting out of the World Health Organization, the US may not go along with the SDR bandwagon.
No, they won't. All that is a switch from the same, so it's jumping out of the pan into the fireplace, the SDR. All the SDR is in that system that they want to create is an updated version of the SWIFT system. If we're already pointing out how corrupt these central banks are, why would we trust a new system that they created? We don't. Trump knows this. I know a lot of you guys keep saying trust the plan. I do. Okay, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be aware of what's going on. Trump knows about all of this. I have to believe that before this is going to happen, he has a backup plan already. That's why he's been dropping hint after hint after hint to all of us to invest in gold and silver.
Particularly as Steve Mnuchin has referred to SDR expansion as ill-targeted when it comes to supporting developing economies. A recent foreign policy article commented that because SDRs are issued on a symmetrical basis in proportion to existing shareholding, 70% would go to G20 members, most of whom do not need them. Only 3% would therefore go to those most in need. If G20 members want to increase SDR's availability to poorer countries, they can start by lending them some of theirs.
Okay, so the point he's trying to make is, look, the G20 members are already economic powerhouses. All the SDR does is make them more powerful. Do you see that? The existing shareholders, 70% would go to the G20 members, most of whom do not need them. Only 3% would go to most in need. Does that make sense? See, again, once again, they're positioning themselves for the elite, the powerful, to be more powerful. This is backwards. You would think that the vast majority of it would go to the state or to the countries that need it the most. So this, again, this is their policy. You could see this is why I think Trump is going to allow this to happen. We need to pull out of this. Don't support the SDR basket. Because you can't go around preaching to people about how we're doing this. Again, this is what the powers that be, the deep state, do. They try to tell you that this is going to benefit everybody, and that's almost in every policy that they create. Then we find out it does not. It benefits them and not the poor.
Following the decision on the WHO, there are rumours that the IMF may opt to remove the US from the global SDR basket currencies, reducing veto rights from the world stage. SDRs would then take a substantial step closer to replacing the greenback. Such a move would...
Again, so I can't help it. This was already in the works. A lot of countries were tired of the influence that the United States had with the greenback dollars as our currency being a reserve dollar. So a lot of countries were already storing up on gold and silver, massive amounts of them. They wanted to get away from the U.S. reserve dollar, because what would happen if you piss off the United States? They would slap tariffs on you and sanctions on you. They would do all kinds of stuff, and to keep you from being corrupt, or, you know, in some cases when our government was corrupt, still is, but using it as a weapon is basically what it comes down to. So this has already been planned. These G20 countries, we've already known this. China and them already said, and Russia and BRICS and, India and Brazil all at the time. We're already talking about how they need to come up with a new version of a reserve dollar. So the SDR is what they came up with. All right, so it looks like they're getting ready to make their move. Make no doubt about it. This so-called New World Order is behind a lot of this, because this is about control. It's about controlling all the money.
Lead to a dramatic devaluation of the dollar, but the obvious response from the Trump administration would be to follow the advice of the president's nominee to the Federal Reserve Board, Judy Shelton. Previously, Shelton has advocated the issuance of Treasury notes to be backed by gold. Let's hear from her now.
Before we do, this is why I keep telling you guys to keep buying precious metals, gold and silver. This is the move. I'm like 98% sure this is what Trump's going to do. They already know in advance what's going to happen. Why do you think Trump has been dropping so many hints about us going back, investing in gold and silver? Silver here, gold here. A tweet from his casino. Gold standard is good, but silver linings are great too. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. The White House being gold and silver. All right? I know some of you out there go, that don't mean anything. Okay, fine. Just be naive and sit back. But the rest of us want to be part of the greatest transfer of wealth ever. And that is going to be into precious metals.
Could offer a Treasury debt instrument that included a gold convertibility feature. Why gold? It doesn't have to be gold. But since central banks in over 100 countries already hold gold as part of their international reserves, it seems a good, neutral reserve asset. And, in my mind, a way to avoid political resentments. So, let's imagine a U.S. Treasury instrument that works like this. On the day of maturity, the holder of the Treasury bond would be entitled to receive back either the face value of the bond or a pre-specified amount of gold. Now,
Nice.
We'll say that again. The day the bond matures, the bondholder gets back either the face value on the bond or else a pre-specified amount of gold. It is
A pre-specified amount of gold would be pretty good, considering if the market goes up, that means that increases the amount you get back. All right?
their option.
Just imagine.
We'll take that option. So what's happening now is, again, the people who are against Judy Shelton getting onto the Federal Reserve because she wants to move us back into the gold standard are the Democrats. I keep telling you, people out there go, you're just being political just because you like Trump. No, both political parties are two sides of the same evil coin. Trump is a true outsider. I don't care if you like the guy or not. That's fine and dandy. Be naive and be left behind. But those of us who are paying attention to this person closely are learning a ton of stuff that the mass public are unaware of. Moving us into the gold standard is sound money. It limits the power of our government and puts the responsibility back into our hands, puts the wealth back into our hands. Trump wants to do away with capital gains. Trump wants to do away with payroll taxes. That puts more money back into our pockets. Like Trump said, he trusts our judgment on what to do with our money more than he trusts the government.
Imagine the heart palpitations a statement like this would give to Jay Powell. What I find particularly fascinating about this notion is that a paper by a Swiss analyst, Bauer, has pointed out how SDRs were seemingly being fixed to the gold price, where we saw an enormous narrowing of volatility. We can see this narrowing through to a rate of 875 to 925 SDRs per ounce of gold. This is indicative of a currency peg. Jim Rickards argues that this implies a new gold standard using not dollars but SDRs. He then postures that a global monetary reset may already have occurred without the need for a formal conference or declaration. To achieve such narrow volatility would require the manipulator to buy gold when it's less than 900 SDRs per ounce and sell dollars. Likewise, when the exchange rate is above 900 SDRs per ounce of gold, they could be sold and SDRs purchased. Such a narrow band would require continual intervention. Rickards and others believe that this is taking place through China's State Administration of Foreign Exchange.
In other words, they're manipulating, again, the gold market.
This is why some have argued that China has taken control of gold from the COMEX, which allowed them to control the price at which they were purchasing gold in this period. But of course, this was an unsustainable peg given the increase in SDRs and the unwillingness of central banks to sell gold. Nevertheless, China have been happy to promote the use of SDRs, firstly to promote the renminbi.
Yeah, of course they are. They're a communist country. The Great Reset is a push into socialism, which will end up into communism. Why do you think the Democrats keep talking about how China is not a threat? They're partnering up with China. That is a threat to this country.
And secondly, to reduce their reliance on the US dollar. Yet it also highlights how China understands the most logical bet is on gold and the SDR. And Rickards believes trillions of SDRs will be created. While it remains highly unlikely we will see such an early return to the gold exchange standard, it does seem more likely that we are about to witness the evolution of the IMF's SDRs. So SDRs could be used to make emergency loans and are used by developing nations to shore up their currency reserves without the need to borrow at high interest rates. Yet the SDR in its current format would fail as a global reserve. Consider the fact that SDRs are not a currency and there is no open market for exchange, or most importantly, the fact that central banks remain net buyers of gold. They know what likely lies ahead, yet amidst the backdrop of evolving CBDCs and the need for real solutions, I will be hugely interested to see what the IMF conference discusses. Perhaps almost certainly more kicking the can down the road. But as Ayn Rand said, all depressions are caused by government interference, and the cure is always offered to take more of the poison that caused the disaster. Depressions are not the result of a free economy.
Oh my God, this is one of the best quotes I can think of. All depressions are caused by the government interference. In other words, all the problems are caused by our government. The cure is always offered to take more of the poison. They cause all the problems and then claim to have the solution, which is just equivalent to adding more problems. Depression are not the result of a free economy. In other words, capitalism in its purest form, without intervention, would cure all this. Less government. This is what Trump's trying to do. Less government is the cure. Democrats want more government, pushing us into this great reset. Trump is trying to avoid it. Anyways, the right move right now is being into gold and silver. There's no doubt about it. What's going to happen here, if you see Trump pulling out of the World Health Organization, the IMF threatening to pull the U.S. as a reserve dollar, that'll drop the value of the US dollar by 40-60%. That means other currencies will rise up against it, which is fine and dandy. Can Trump push us into the gold standard with the Democrats in his way? No. But he has a right, according to our laws, to manipulate the market, or at least Steve Moochie Boochie does, which to keep him from just revaluating the value of gold and silver and forcing countries to go into the gold standard, including ours. All right, you guys, that's it for now. I just wanted to show you because these were both good videos. I told you when you start paying attention to what the billionaires, hedge funds, all the powers that be start moving into gold and silver, that means you should be doing the same as well. This October is going to be very huge in a lot of different ways. Gold, silver, global currency resets. Yeah, man, we're about to see. So we'll keep an eye on it. I just wanted to share this information with you guys, all right? That's it for now. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later.